Is Montessori good or bad? Is it a good learning approach? Is it a bad learning approach? Is it a fit for your child? And when is it definitely not a fit? Well, my name is ARTEMIS. I'm an early childhood educator. I have worked in Montessori schools. I went to a Montessori school and daycare and preschool. So I have years of experience with the Montessori approach, both on a personal level and a professional level, and on a theoretical level, actually. So I'm here today to help you answer these questions. So before we get into whether or not the Montessori approach is a good approach for your little one, or whether it's good or bad, I think we should start by looking at what Montessori education actually is. The Montessori approach was founded by Maria Montessori in the early 1900s in Italy. So she actually started this approach for children who were considered to be unteachable at the time, which, at that time were mainly poor children, disadvantaged children, or children with special needs. Today, a Montessori classroom has different little corners, it's an open space, you can see a lot of wooden toys, and the Montessori classroom typically has 5 different learning areas. You have the sensorial area where you play with the senses, you can touch things, you can, we used to put blindfolds on ourselves and then we would touch different materials and we would guess what it was. There's also toys where you can play with different weights and sounds and stuff like that. So it's a way to stimulate all the senses and learn different skills through, sensory experiences. Then we also have the language area where you can learn the alphabet. There are different books. We also have the mathematical area where you learn maths in different ways. Then we also have the cultural studies area where there are different flags and there's a big, atlas, and you can learn about geography and all these different cultures and songs, and that's kind of a mixed area. I remember as a child I used to love this area. Finally, we also have the practical life skills area. So this is where you kind of learn to fold things and to tie your shoes and to do different things that you're going to need in everyday life. So the idea is basically that there are different structures, but within that structure you have a freedom of choice. For example, when I was a student in the Montessori schools, I remember that we, used to start the day by prioritizing. Like, for example, we would say, okay, today we have Swedish, we need to learn Swedish, we need to learn English, we need to learn math, and we need to learn, 10 new flags of different countries. But that was a goal for the day. Then I got to decide and structure the way in which I wanted to learn those things, in which corner I would go to learn those things, at which time I would do that. Some kids prefer to write Swedish in the morning and then do the fun stuff by the end of the day. Other kids used to switch it around. So that was kind of the idea of the day. And you can see here how independent the structure is as well, how independently structured this type of education is. Okay, so now we've kind of arrived at the question, is Montessori good or is Montessori bad? Well, I hate to disappoint, but I believe that every child is different, so I can't say if Montessori is good or bad. There's only more suitable and less suitable. So what I can do is give you a little list of signs where, the Montessori approach is suitable and when the Montessori approach might be less suitable. Here is a list of signs where I think that if you see these signs in your little one, they actually might really thrive in a Montessori environment. So the first sign is if your home environment resembles the Montessori environment. And what I mean by that is the Montessori environment is, as we spoke about earlier, it's quite structured. There are different corners of the room where you can learn different things. Even at a very early age, you actually get to plan your own learning, and it's very quiet. It's not adult-led, actually. The teacher is, of course, there to teach the kids different things, but then in the way of which kids go about learning those things and writing and actually sitting down and doing some exercises, that's up to the child from a very, very early age. So if your home environment kind of resembles this quiet place where the toys and the books are accessible to your little one, if your little one likes being independent and they kind of like engaging in learning practical life skills, like maybe they're trying to help you clean up or they even like cleaning up after themselves, I think that's a really good sign that they might thrive in a Montessori setting. So the home environment is a big thing. Your child's personality is also a big thing. If you know that your child tends to be a little bit more on the independent side, Montessori might be a really, really great option for them. Okay, so when is Montessori a bad fit for your little one? When is it not an approach that you might want to go with? Again, I would look at the home environment. So if your home environment is this beautiful, warm, big place where you communicate all the time and you talk all the time and the learning is very much based in communication and, You have discussions where you sometimes interrupt each other, like in a friendly way, you know, and you debate back and forward. Okay, we're talking about kids, but you know the type of communication I'm talking about. Or maybe your little one is kind of looking to an adult like you or another caretaker to take care of the learning and guide the learning of the day. If this is what your home environment looks like, and if this is the way in which your little one is used to learning, then you might want to consider another method. Because usually in Montessori schools, as I said, and as I've emphasized earlier in this video, it's very structured, it's very quiet, it's very adult-like. And of course, there are some schools that don't go with this approach, but in essence, it's very much self-led and also very adult-like in the communication. So, you know, you raise your hand. I've actually witnessed as a teacher when I was working in a Montessori school, I witnessed this boy. He was drawing something and he just got up. He had this idea and he just ran across the room. And the teacher said, you know, Mike, can you try that again one time? And Mike said, oh yeah, I'm sorry. And he went back to his chair. He sat down again. He put away his pen and paper. He folded it. He put down his chair and then he walked across the room. So this is something that they clearly practice so many times where, you know, you can't run. You can't just like leave things in the air. You have to, you know, pick up. You have to be quiet and not disturb the others. You have to put your chair in and walk quietly across the room. So, you know, if your child is spontaneous and has these ideas and, you know, always making these connections and running around and like is very active and communicative, you might want to consider going with another approach. You might also want to consider another approach if your child doesn't like structure, if they don't really are interested in being independent yet. And if they don't like doing one activity at a time, they like mixing different activities and being social through those activities. Because again, Montessori is not really like that. It's not like a circle where you discuss and you like talk and you in a friendly way interrupt each other and have debates. And it's like, you know, warm and active. It's, as I said earlier, it's very much, you know, step by step, very quiet, very like calm and all those things. So it might be a thing to consider. While we're on the subject of when it's suitable for your child, a lot of parents ask me if the Montessori approach is suitable for children with ADHD. So this is also a very, very personal question because, you know, not every single child with ADHD is the same way. However, a lot of children that do have ADHD really, really thrive when they're structured and quiet. So, you know, of course, the Montessori approach, when carried out correctly, they really have those two factors. However, children are different. I, you know, had some students that had ADHD and they did not thrive in a Montessori setting. Some did, some did not. But the ones that did not were actually really uncomfortable with the quiet. They were very uncomfortable with, you know, having to rely so much on themselves. I would recommend you to, you know, not think about it like, oh, if my child has ADHD, then they will either like it or not like it. Because it's not really like that. It's still up to the individual person. Some children with ADHD love the quiet and love the structure and it really helps them focus. And some are just like, oh my God, you know, it's overwhelming because it's so quiet or because the teachers, you know, might not be guiding them so much about what to do. So there are, of course, different factors. So try to remember that as well. What happens if Montessori is not a good fit for you? I know it's very trendy right now. I know everybody's talking about Montessori, but if you hear this video or, you know, if you've heard other things and you're like, I don't really think Montessori fits us, you know, it doesn't fit our family, it doesn't fit my values, it doesn't fit my child's personality, you know, what do you do then? Well, I have news for you. There are so many different wonderful methods out there. There's my personal favorite, the project approach. I love the project approach. It's also called, or, you know, it can also be called the Reggio Emilia approach. I love this approach. It's actually suitable for a lot more children because it's very different and it depends on the teacher and the classroom and the culture. There's also Waldorf, there are forest schools, like there are so many different types of education and learning approaches out there. So if Montessori is not a good fit for you, that's okay, you know? My personal opinion, you know, people ask me like, ARTEMIS, what do you think? Do you think Montessori is a good approach or do you think it's a bad approach? Again, there is no clear answer for this, you know? Personally, for me, I'm a highly independent introvert. I have been since I was a little kid. I was always quiet. I always wanted to sit by myself. I could focus for hours at a time. I still can. So for me, this was a perfect approach. Like, I loved it. I didn't have to talk to anyone. I could raise my hand. Everyone was quiet. I kind of like, I'm sensitive to sound as well. So that was like really helpful for me that everyone was quiet. And I personally loved it. As a teacher, I can clearly see that it's not for everyone. I think Montessori is actually a very specific type of approach. It's for a very specific type of personality, or a specific type of child, so it really doesn't benefit everyone. So I really think it's good that you're here and you're watching this, because it's good to, you know, investigate whether or not it's a good fit for your kid. So, you know, if you've watched until now and you're like, well, I hear your advice, but I still don't really know if it's a good fit for me. I don't know if it's a good fit for my child. You know, what should you do? Here's what I recommend. Number one, you can go volunteer at a Montessori school. Now, I know, you know, a lot of adults, a lot of parents don't really have time for this, but if you do have the time, even for just 1 hour, just call, you know, your closest, or the school that you're considering, the Montessori school you're considering, and ask them, is it okay for me to come and volunteer at your school just for 1 hour or 2? And I can help you, you know, I can clean up after the kids, or, you know, I mean, you wouldn't because it's Montessori, but still, you could just ask them if you can go and volunteer. And if they let you, which they should, if they don't let you, it's kind of a red flag, to be honest. But if they do let you come and volunteer, then you can see, like, you know, you get more of a sense of that specific school, of those specific teachers, and of the Montessori approach in general. Now, if you don't have time to do that, you can ask them when their next open house is, and you can go to their open house with your little one and see if your little one is, like, responding to it, if they like the environment, you know. Because most likely, even in the open house, yeah, sure, you might be talking a bit more, but, I mean, we used to have open houses when I worked, where we would, like, shush people. Like, it's just so quiet. I cannot emphasize this enough. Now, one final note. Something really, really, really important is that teachers can make or break education. And we all know this, right? I'm sure that even when I'm saying this, you remember that one teacher that just really ruined math for you, or, like, really ruined a topic for you, or, you know, a class or a day. Like, teachers can really, really, really affect, you know, how we feel about education. So whichever method you choose to go with, whether it's Montessori or whether it's something else, I really recommend you talk to every single one of the teachers. Just a quick chat, just to feel them out, see, you know, how they are as people, you know, what some of their ideas are of education, of communication, what they think about kids. It's really important. Yeah, just really talk to the teachers and feel it out, because Montessori or not, if the teachers are not good, it's not going to be good anyway. Okay, that's it for me. If you found this video helpful, then follow along and like it.